About a year ago from this time, so January of 2025, I felt a shift. I felt something changing within me. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but I knew that my life was going to take a different direction. Up until that point, I can't say that my life was bad. I mean, I had a good life, but I realized that it wasn't what I really wanted it to be. It wasn't the fullness of what I thought my life could be. And I had this revelation. I had been living my life in this default setting, and I wanted to live a life of intentionality. I wanted to intentionally create the life that I wanted. I wanted to make conscious decisions that would move me in the direction of joy, move me in the direction of creativity, the things that I felt really mirrored me, so that when I looked around, I could say, this is me, but just externally. Up until that point, I had been a spiritual seeker. I was someone who was going to classes and seminars and reading tons of books and learning so many different spiritual practices and ideologies and just hopping from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and never really feeling settled and never really feeling as though I could rest in any particular spiritual practice. But I gained wisdom and knowledge from every single thing that I learned, every single teacher that I was learning under. I took bits and pieces, and I found that there was a common thread in everything. And that common thread was really at the core, you as an I had to be able to take my power and take control of my own life. I couldn't play the victim, couldn't point fingers. I had to simply say, okay, if I don't like the things that are going on in my life right now, what can I do to change it? And that question actually was really scary, because that meant that I had to do something different. The default setting of my life was operating from these patterns and these behaviors that were born out of fear, that was born out of this perception of lack, of unworthiness, of unlovableness. Many of the years that I was deep in spiritual work and deep in spiritual practice and healing work and therapy was finally not avoiding and actually addressing the things that I was trying to run away from. Once I addressed them, or once I faced them, then there was kind of this question of, okay, well, now what do I do? Awareness is important. Awareness is the very first step in any sort of change, in any sort of shift that has to happen. Awareness has to be the first thing. And I will say that it took me a very long time to hone in on this practice of awareness. It was a lot of meditation. It was a lot of stillness. It was a lot of quiet, going internal and listening to my dialogue, the internal dialogue that had been playing on for years and years and years on a loop. Once I became aware of the dialogue, then I made an effort to actively change it. And some of that was affirmations. A lot of it was just journaling and putting a spotlight on the narratives and the voices that had been silent or had been very quiet for a very long time and running the show. Once I was able to recognize the narratives and then slowly start to change them, then I had to actually put some action. It couldn't just stay in the mind. I had to actually do something with the body. I had to link the two together so that I could make these huge changes. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm at the place right now where I'm saying to myself, okay, let's take these small actionable steps to change the momentum. There has been a certain rhythm. There's been a certain momentum that my life has been going in. And I am now doing what I can to change that, which means that I have to make different changes. And some of those are small and some of those are big. So now that I've had enough practice and enough time where I've been able to become aware of my thoughts and redirect the narrative, change the script, I can now start to take certain steps, certain actionable steps, and say, okay, let me kind of branch out from my comfort zone a little bit. I'm someone that likes patterns. I like to know what's coming. And once I get into a certain groove, once I get into a certain flow, I kind of keep that same flow going. It feels comfortable. It's my comfort zone. And what I started doing for the past like month or so is I have been slowly tweaking certain things. In the morning, I don't necessarily follow the same routine that I always have. I'll change up some things. Maybe I'll prepare my coffee first before I brush my teeth. Maybe I'll brush my teeth and then get dressed. Maybe I will feed Gizmo first. I just try to change up little things here and there. And throughout my day, those are the little shifts that to someone else may seem insignificant, unimportant. Internally, at first, I was freaking out because I would say to myself, particularly in the morning, my morning routine used to be so tight and so locked, and I just kept doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again, so that when I started to do little shifts and do something different, inside I would be freaking out because I would be saying to myself, oh my gosh, I'm going to be late for work. I missed this. I didn't do this right. Did I do this? Oh my goodness. Did I forget something? And sometimes I would forget something. And then I had to just tell myself it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I had to slowly take myself out of this pattern, this kind of groove that I had worn into my day that had been so repetitive that I recognized that I needed to change. How can I have this wonderful, beautiful, amazing life that I want to build and create for myself if I can't step outside of these well-worn grooves of my daily patterns and behaviors and habits and freak out at the slightest thing that goes awry? The things that I want to do, the places that I'm envisioning myself going, the trips that I'm taking, all the things that I'm having in my mind and I'm using in my imagination, there has to be some sort of spontaneity. There has to be the ability to be flexible and to change and pivot when need be. I was someone who would say in the past, I can go with the flow. No, I can't. Or at least I couldn't. I didn't feel as though I could go with the flow. I said that to myself, and maybe on the surface I looked like I was calm and just shifting and pivoting with whatever was going on. Meanwhile, inside I was like, the other thing that I started to do was to write things down. Now, I love writing. I've been writing journals for years, and I write just thoughts, and I have so many journals. I have so many notebooks all around my apartment. I carry them with me in my purse all the time. I wrote down goals that I had. Now, this is a practice that I've done for years. I would write things on parchment paper with pencil and have all these visions and dreams and goals, but I kept changing them, and I wouldn't stick to a goal long enough that I could actually see the goal come to fruition. And I had to slow down and ask myself, Kendall, what is it that the goal or this thing is really, what is it that I'm really trying to feel, or who is it that I'm trying to be? Because yeah, maybe I want this money and that is great. And of course it would be able to help me pay bills and do the things that I need to do and travel and enjoy life. But what is like the money really about? It's about freedom. It's about the ability to feel expansive, to have options, to be able to control my own life and to control my own destiny. And so I wrote down a list of the feelings that I wanted to feel, this idyllic person that I wanted to be. And I wasn't so much focusing on the tangible things that I wanted, the tangible goals. I mean, I did write those things down, but I kind of kept them very vague, and I left enough room for flexibility. Okay, maybe this is a certain goal that I would want to have, or maybe this is a certain amount of money, or maybe this is a certain place that I want to travel to, but I'm going to give myself a window. I'm going to give myself a little wiggle room just so that I can be open to other options. And I also stopped being so dead set on a particular goal, on a particular way that I wanted to achieve that goal. I had to learn how to just let all of that go. I stripped all of those things away, got right down to the nitty gritty, and I said, okay, what's the feeling? Write down the feeling. The other thing that I started to do was pay attention to these negative feelings, pay attention to these negative voices, and really pluck them out, not give them the ability to hide in the corners or hide in the shadows of my subconscious mind. No, I'm going to bring it to the light. I'm going to bring it to the surface. Give you an example. One of the things that I often felt this lack of was love. I felt that abundance of love, abundance of care and compassion was not in my world, was not a part of my experience in life. And when I really began to examine my life and look at the truth of it, I recognized that I've had an abundance of love the entirety of my life. And the things that I focused on are the relationships that I focused on, where I won't even say that there was lack that was happening there, but certain things happened that I had no control over and had nothing to do with me. But there was an interpretation that because this thing failed, or because this person left, or there's no longer this connection, that somehow like I'm now this bad person, or I don't deserve love, or I'm unworthy. And that could not have been further from the truth. I began to talk to myself and nurture that part of me at different ages and stages that felt as though I was unworthy, or looking at things from a lack of love. And I had to say to myself, hey, Kendall, guess what? You're looking at it from this perspective, and it's actually a very tiny perspective that you're looking at. But if you were to zoom out and look at the entirety of your life, you will see that you actually have an abundance of love. I felt like I was time traveling, as in the present me was going back to the younger versions of myself and having these really in-depth heart-to-heart conversations. I would be in meditation sometimes with my eyes closed before I would go to bed. Sometimes it was driving in a car on the way to work, just talking to myself and just saying, Kendall, look at your life right now. Kendall, I know that you can't see what's going to happen. I know that you don't know the outcome, but I'm here right now in this present moment, which is in your future. And I'm letting you know that guess what? Not only does everything work out, everything works out way more than you could have ever imagined it to be. So once I started to integrate that past person or that past perspective with the present moment and really put all of those pieces together and not have them kind of siloed and segmented, then I was able to say, okay, now I can really begin to consciously and intentionally create this beautiful, wonderful, mystical, magical, joyous, loving life. So you're actually coming along with me on this journey. I am going to be sharing with you these moments, these actionable steps that I'm taking to do something different. My daily routine, getting up in the morning, driving to work. I still drive the same way, going to and from work. That hasn't really changed that much, mostly because I'm trying to avoid traffic. The things that I do in the morning as I'm getting ready for work and the things that I do when I get home as I'm decompressing from work have changed. And each day I do something a little different. I do a little tweak. This weekend, today's Monday, I'm recording this on Monday. This weekend I have some plans, some things that are really going to take me out of my comfort zone even more. And I'm going to include you on those things. I'm excited about it. I'm also super nervous about it because I want to record it, but I also am like super nervous about recording in front of other people. But once again, taking me out of my comfort zone. But I want to have kind of a video diary where I'm able to document these things and show the progression of where I am right now to where it is that I want to go. And I'm kind of being very vague about the goals intentionally, just because I think there are some things that are meant to stay close to the vest. There are some things that I'm working on. There are some things that are happening right now that are blossoming and blooming. But one of the things that I've noticed in the past is when I share certain things, even if it's tons of support that I get from people, now suddenly there's a lot of energy that's been attached to it, and it feels very weighty. There were times where I felt like maybe I should have kind of kept this to myself a little bit longer till I got to a place where I felt more stable and I felt more grounded. And so I'm going to try that now in this process. And so I'm not going to talk about the actual goals. I'm not going to talk about the actual things that I'm aspiring for and aspiring to, but just know that they are in my mind and I'm envisioning them constantly and I'm already embodying them. I'm already feeling myself as the person that is experiencing those things. This external world that you're seeing is the world that I'm living in, but in my mind, I'm not there, which may sound a little crazy, but I think you got to be a little crazy in order to make some changes. So I'm excited that y'all are going to come on this journey with me. I'm also very nervous because that means I have to be very vulnerable and I have to share things, and I have to not just share things in this video sense, but I also have to share things in the world with people, and I have to interact with people in ways that normally I would be very closed off. I would be very quiet and be very introverted and very introspective, and I kind of like to be off in the corner by myself. But the life that I'm building for myself, the life that I have, the vision that I see, how my future self is reaching back and saying, oh my gosh, it's absolutely amazing. I cannot be that person anymore. I have to step outside. I have to expand and I have to stretch and take up space. And so I'm really doing that, but I'm doing that in ways that is still honoring myself and honoring the boundaries that I have. I don't have to kind of go out of the box and be some completely different person in order to achieve these goals. I have to make certain tweaks and really find a space where I can be the true, authentic me, but also stretch it a little bit. So come along on this journey, folks. I know you're going to like it. I'm going to like it. We're going to do it together. It's going to be fun. All right, let's get started.